I get the question a lot, when does a shift turn into a sway? Speaking of the backswing. Backswing is really important because it determines whether you arrive at the top of the swing with the body segments both in the correct position, but most importantly, moving, or the segments of the body moving in the right direction and at the right time, so that the downswing components, everything falls into place quickly and naturally. There's some other subtle advantages. The backswing's good. Your learning process is shortened drastically because you won't have to really make any dicey mid-swing compensations in order to make the swing work. So a good backswing promotes repetition and consistency. It makes us, sound powerful downswing easier to perform. And I try to teach the swing in a whole, because the swing only takes 1 second, 1,001. 0.7 seconds going back, 0.3 coming down. And a lot of these, videos, I focus on common tendencies, common trends. So here I am at the setup position, and we're going to talk about the shift of the body, the weight shift. When does that turn into a sway? So as I remove the stick figure, the model, which is fit to me, I'm going to show you first of all one thing, how I do a waggle. So I have a little waggle right here to get going, and I think that's really important to initiate the swing. And you'll notice I have a little kick to the left. So I'm putting a little more emphasis into moving. It's sort of like a counter movement. I'm going to trigger to the left to start the swing. And to me, that creates my shift automatically. I try to get my shift to the right done by when the club's just past the right leg. So as I show you this with my swing, I'll overlay this on the hips. And you can see how I make my little bump to the left, and then there's the shift. So you can see how I've moved away right there. So at this point, if I remove that, now the shift is done. So now what I'm going to emphasize is turning. So you can see now my hips and shoulders are rotating, and I haven't moved anymore to the right. A common fault among a lot of golfers emphasize that, and I'm not using exaggeration, is when they get here, is when they begin the shift. They begin shifting away from the target at this point, too late. So then their weight gets outside the right. So remember, it should be a slight trigger motion to get yourself going. So a little waggle, then a trigger motion where I'm going to kick a little to the left to get going. You can see there. And there I load into my right leg. So shift, and now the shift is over. Now there is a little bit of turn with the shoulders and hips going on when they're shifting. And at this point, there's zero shift. There's not a millimeter more shift to the right. You rotate so that you're loading the body, so you're stretching these muscles now to get ready. And it also puts the club in the proper position. Now, if I go here and so show you the full figure of that stick figure, you can see when it starts back, you can see how much shift there was into that right side. If I take the graphic off, put that on the hips now, you can see it just rotates. So from here to here, no more shifting. And to me, that's what the controversy is about swaying. People think, okay, if you teach a shift off the ball with your hips to the right, and you can see this less than 2 inches, 2 inches max, where you go right there, and you can see how it's done. It's finished. That's the shift is really done. The club passes the right leg. And then the emphasis turned to rotation now from here to here. And in later videos, I'll kind of already covered the transition. coming down. But very important, once you get to this point, that you don't shift anymore to the right. It's going to rotate. So it's a shift. You emphasize a trigger motion, kind of a waggle to get yourself in motion, very important, so you're not static. You get the entire body to, ready to make the swing. The whole body initiates this movement. You're moving into that right leg, blending that in with an initial trigger motion, blending into the waggle. And really, the emphasis should be done, right in here, kind of right there with me. Most of that shift is done right there. And now you're going to rotate. You're just going to rotate and not shift anymore to the right. That's how you eliminate the sway. I'll do another video on giving some common looks of what it looks like when people don't do this correctly. But for now, remember, a little waggle motion, a little trigger motion into the left to start, counter movement, and then you load that right leg really early, almost just when the club's past the right leg. And then after that is when the emphasis turns to mostly rotation.